Hi, Roger Mitchell, Tiger Shark Studios here. Quick chat with you just to go over some of the things I've been seeing and talking about online via some of the forums. AI art. Now, I know there's a bunch of artists and other people who have spoken upon this, have seen the progression. There's a couple of things I just want to throw my hat into the ring with, and the first one being AI art. Yes, it's coming, it's probably already here, and it's advancing at a very rapid rate. The quality of Midjourney renders and Midjourney art generation is truly phenomenal. The challenge is, and as always with being an artist and watching how art is being created, is for those of us who, like all forms of art, appreciate the masters, the current people who are really pushing the medium forward, we all have to make a living. And it's if it's not obvious, it should be obvious that AI art is a direct threat to our way of sustaining ourselves as artists. If you look at what AI art is being used for, it's being used to generate game assets, 3D assets that could possibly be used in the future, 2D imagery, which is currently being used. Now, it's interesting that people say that the art that is being generated is being created in its own vacuum. It's not the case. Midjourney and a lot of these other AI art algorithms are needing to create the art that they're generating from a sample set. Now, either they are being given that sample set or they are trolling or scraping that sample set from the internet. But wherever they're getting that imagery, an artist created that imagery. Now, if it's a studio and they're paying the artist to create baseline art styles and art samples that are then being fed into the database so that when you put in the prompt, it knows what to draw from, no problem, those people are getting paid. But we all know that the majority of these algorithms are scraping the internet, they're trolling the internet. So when someone says, oh, but the art is free, no, it's not free because someone created it and put it out there either as a portfolio piece or they sold it to some stock gallery that is then compensating them for their work. Now, the interesting thing is that this art is so pristine, so good that it in one case it already won a competition until they found out that the artist used the art algorithm to generate his work that he entered. So how do I feel about this? Well, as a working artist for 30 years, who trained, practiced, put in my 10,000 hours, who's adapted. I've had to adapt. I've gone from amateur to professional to studio artist to lead artist to art director. I left the industry and then went into teaching as instructor, associate instructor, senior instructor, art instructor, program director. I've done all of these things, and at every stage, I've had to relearn and update my skills. Now, with the progress of time, I've seen software that have come along that has made the production of art easier. For instance, when ZBrush came out, it made modeling a whole lot easier because you were actually sculpting as if it was digital clay. Nothing wrong with that. It still required you to learn the package and generate the art. And a lot of artists have created some absolutely amazing pieces of art. The same with 3D modeling, the same with texture painting. And at every stage, even though the technology has adapted, the artist has been the person who has been able to wield the art. Now, what's happening is we are seeing a situation where People who are, for lack of a better word, and this is the thing, I am unapologetic about saying this, not skilled, or people who do not understand what it takes to become an artist, the hours that put in, or don't appreciate the skill and talent that an artist puts in to create the art that they create, especially if you're working under tight deadlines, either be it freelance or in a studio. People ask you to come up with a scene or a character or some kind of visual effect, and we are basically pulling it out of our ass. We're coming up with our artwork. We're drawing on our years of skill and practice and training, and we're making things happen. And the interesting thing is, like with most things, based on how studios work, and obviously I understand that they are trying to cut their costs and maximize their profits. That's the capitalist system we live in. It's going to be you're going to be in a situation where you're going to start eating your own tail, because and this is the thing. When I was in studios and we had producers or art directors or managers who clearly did not understand what it meant to create art. And I'm not saying they had to be an artist, but they needed to have an appreciation of the skill set. I've seen companies lay off entire concept art divisions because they didn't see it as a need. They could outsource it. Okay. But when you got a situation where you've got someone saying to you, produce this million poly character, fully modeled, fully topologized with good edge flow, fully rigged, fully textured, ready to rock and roll, ready to drop into a game or into a film scene, and you got to do it in less than 24 hours. Not humanly possible. Now, if you turn around and say, well, okay, we can get an algorithm to do that, okay, great. So, do you really think an algorithm is going to be able to think of every possibility that that person who doesn't understand what it is they're asking is going to be able to articulate into words? Most people these days, when it comes to production pipeline, can't even communicate scheduling. And you think they're going to be able to communicate what it is they want when they can't visualize it themselves. I mean, if you've been a creative, or if you've worked in any kind of industry where you have to deliver some product and the client wants some variations to choose from, the good rule of thumb is you give them between 3 and 5 options and no more, because you give them more, you're going to have a paradox of choice. When people have too much choice, they make no choice, which is obviously, or can be the wrong choice. So if you say to them, here's my 5 iterations on this game character for some FPS shooter game, and you make enough variation in each of those 5 versions so that you can see there's clear delineation, the person who doesn't know what they're looking for can at least discount 2 or 3 of the things that they don't like and leave you with 2 or 3 options there for you to then go and iterate on. Now, what they're saying is, with an algorithm, we can do that, but you still need the original art, because if you ask the algorithm to come up with a choice and you give it a choice of 4 iterations on an idea, they're all very similar. You're going to have to tell the algorithm to be specifically different in each iteration. And again, because it's an algorithm, it's not thinking, it has to reference something that's already been created. So I'm looking at AI art and I can see benefits to it, but you have to take into account human nature, greed, and the fact that human nature, greed, jealousy, envy, and all these other things that human beings have. And you're going to have a situation where you're going to have people thinking that they can do better than someone with 30 years experience and generate artwork that then they can then manipulate and create other assets from to drop into a game or a film or whatever production they're doing and completely cut out the artist. Now, I think what you're going to end up with is, and for those of you who grew up in Europe, you're going to understand exactly what I'm saying now. You're going to end up with a 1990s Lada. And for those of you who don't know what a Lada is, it's a Russian um, car company which basically made all its cars look like bricks on wheels, and they were grey. They were battleship grey. Now, if you're okay living in a world where everything looks grey and blocky and unappealing, go for it. But for me, I will keep pushing artwork. I will keep adding to my skill set. Will I probably look at AI art, reference AI art? I might when it comes to seeing if I could expand on some of my own ideas, but I will never use it to generate ideas from scratch without myself, without going to myself first. Um, I think we will. You're going to see a lot of bland, formulaic, repetitive work. And if you want to have an idea of what this is going to look like, just look at what happened with NFT art. Everybody thought, oh, I can use a generator, I can create all this artwork, and I can basically take it to the market and make a ton of money. And those that were first made a lot of money, and those that were not very skilled made a lot of money. And then when you saw what happened, when the bottom fell out of the market, it all went pear-shaped. So that's my take on AI art. Um, Obviously, I leave that up to you if you want to comment, subscribe, and follow me. Tiger Shark Studios, we are going to be doing some new art assets, which we're going to be putting out on the usual platforms: CG Trader, Unity Asset Store, Gumroad for those of you who need it. I'm still working on my art books, so I'm still just trying to get those things kind of finalized. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Let's see what happens. And for those of you who disagree, please put comments. Let's see where this thing goes. I, for one, can see a not too positive outcome for AI art in terms of production. I think a lot of talented people are going to be removed from studios, and I think what we need to do as artists is stand together and keep pushing the quality, keep pushing our skill sets, and eventually we will have a place in this society going forward where people will be able to appreciate what it is we do and what we bring to the conversation. So until the next time, take it easy.